Welcome to the show. My name is Charlton with Big C. This is Charlton and Big C Sports, coming to you worldwide on the Big C Sports Network, on the number one network in the United States of America. And Big C Sports has been voted the number one sports show in the universe, according to Big C. And the good old boys down south, I want to say bienvenidos to all of our listeners and Latin America, also across the pond, and London, England, as well as Paris, France. Of course, you good old boys in Canada. We love you in Africa, the Big C tribe, but there's no one we love more than the good old boys down south in the land of the free and the home of the brave on a beautiful July the 13th, 2020. Round of the Puertes, Big C. How's it going for you good old boys down south?
Well, Charlton, beautiful days, comfortable days. Been spending the last 8 days, watching a cultural revolution on television with a great education behind it. But I also want to thank those frontline healthcare workers, the nurses, the doctors, and the first responders for doing all that they do every day as we see this COVID-19 pandemic running rampant throughout the United States and getting looked at from the administration as it doesn't exist.
Yeah, sometimes if you just close your eyes, Big C, it will go away, but it won't go away if you don't close your eyes. I want to say today's show is sponsored by your Northern California Cadillac dealers, home of the all-new Cadillac Escalade, the standard of the world. And when you go by and test drive yours, tell them Charlton and Big C sent you, as well as a fleet of Cadillac cars. Also, Big C Sports all around the world, powered by Google and Alexa. Just say Google or Alexa, play Big C Sports Podcast. You will hear from our sponsors. You will hear, welcome to the show. I will introduce Big C as the Mystic, and he will do his thing from 3,000 miles away. And I really appreciate the way things are growing with Big C Sports. You can follow Big C Sports on Xfinity, Comcast TV, Roku TV, Amazon Fire TV, and a lot of smart TVs all over the universe. But you better have a smart TV, Big C, or you'll be sitting there looking at a still picture. Man, I love doing the pause. I've been doing almost every day. I do at least 100 push-ups, and after I get that 100, I got to pause, Big C. But I will never pause on the Veterans Crisis Hotline. They are experienced in helping veterans and their loved ones get help, Big C. Why is that so important to you?
Well, Charlton, it seems like our administration has put a pause on the Veterans Crisis Hotline. I know PROTUS visited Walter Reed Hospital last week for a photo op, but he did not address this unsurmountable number that we have, some 22 American veterans committing suicide every day in this great country, Charlton. And he spoke nothing about ways to stem the tide of that. I know we give out the National Suicide Prevention Hotline number, Charlton, as well as many other Americans, I feel, do the same thing because they're also concerned about the plight of our veterans in this country. But with this pandemic going on, Charlton, so many people get sidetracked and don't even think about the veterans. They become a secondary entity.
Yeah.
But they've allowed this country to have freedom, the movement about that everyone desires, Charlton. And, this suicide rate in America, not just amongst the veterans, but the young people in our country, is very horrific, and this country needs to find a way to help them all out.
And we are doing our part. 800-273-8255. That's 800-273-8255. Or you can text 838-255. That's 838-255. If you're online, simply go to veteranscrisisline.net. That's veteranscrisisline.net. If you know any veterans going through issues, try to get them some help. Also, very happy to be affiliated with Valley Homes Weekly TV on Dish TV, DirecTV, AT&T Uverse, TV 53, home of the San Francisco Giants, and the Say Hey Kid. When you reach out to them, tell them Big C sent you. The goal is simple: recruit 100 real estate brokers, put their property listings on TV just like McDonald's does it, car companies are doing it, and sports is trying to do it again too. Watch TV and real estate work for you. 800-772-8624. That's 800-772-8624. If you're also looking for opportunities in real estate, go to bigcsports.pacwm.com. That's bigcsports.pacwm.com, and you can see a lot of opportunities too. So, Big C, I was telling you, I wish it would rain. Oh, I wish it would rain. And it hasn't rained in California, but it has cooled down quite a bit. And I want to thank you for sending some of the wind. You didn't send out rain, but you did send out some wind, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, this weather's been ups and down and topsy-turvy throughout the country. I mean, one day we'll get rain, the next day we're 95 degrees, but we appreciate it all. It helps keep everything green around here.
Yeah, it keeps everything green around here. I really appreciate it. Also, I want to wish a very happy birthday to my mother, the number one mom in the universe. Really want to say happy 88 years young, and may God bless you with many more years. Really appreciate saying that, Big C. I want to touch on some things. As my mom says, make sure you don't say any cuss words on your program, so I'm making sure I don't do that. But I've got to tell you something. I know we love sports too, and I'm not surprised by anything I see, but sometimes you just call attention to things. There's a guy on a Fox News, his name is Tucker Carlson, and he had a staffer that resigned over some racist and sexist comments, and they do a lot of work with POTUS, and he was saying that black dudes staying inside playing Call of Duty is probably one of the biggest factors in keeping crime down, and he has no idea what the Confederate flag stood for that they proudly boast about on Fox News. Mix of your thoughts.
Well, Charlton, when you think about Fox News being the network of the president and all the rhetoric through the following that they have, you got to also understand that Tucker Carlson is the number one show on cable news at night. And so there's a huge following and belief of the things that they say. You know, at times, you know, these things come out, and people won't always label minorities as being racist when they make a stance and say things. But that's just normal father when you think about that channel and the people that play on that channel.
Yeah, it is. It just shows that you can hand out sour candy, and a lot of people, they buy sour candy. And for Tucker Carlson to hide and let his guy get fired instead of him saying, "Hey, I'm the one who approves what he writes." He let his friend, the producer, get fired, and he's keeping his job. Is that chivalry, Big C? Your thoughts?
No, Charlton, it's not chivalry. It's just big money will take care of little money, and that's the scenario that you look at.
Yeah.
It's not like this guy is going to go by the wayside and not have a job, Charlton, because if he was a writer for Tucker Carlson, he can move to the next show on the network.
Yeah, they'll let it go to another network. I want to, I always pay attention and pay homage to our brethren. We talked about different people. There's a reporter by the name of Adrian Wojnarowski, I guess they call him Woj, on the mothership, and he was also suspended. I guess he sent an FU tweet to a senator, and them good old boys didn't like that. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, that's just one of the guidelines of that network, that if you get involved in politics and generality on that network, is that they're going to find a way to suspend you. I mean, it's written into the contract about the behavior and the comments that you can use, but I mean, realistically, this is a segment of society when people talk about sports and politics don't mix. They do mix.
Oh, they do.
Because politicians are constantly trying to dip their hands into sports and tell athletes what they should do and what owners should do to these athletes if they don't adhere to what the politician thinks about that. So, I mean, what they're doing is censorship.
Yeah.
They're telling people that they cannot be opinionated when they're on the air. It has cost many of broadcasters their job because they talk about their personal feelings when they're doing a broadcast. And the network said, hey, we got to appease to the advertisers.
Well, think about this. The writer for Tucker Carlson that got fired for saying some racist things, and they knew who he was because they did a background check before they hired him. But they kept a guy on who was racist as long as he didn't tweet about his racism. Tucker Carlson throws him under the bus, and then you go across to the mothership and the ESPN, they're suspending guys for just having an opinion that do not appear to be racist. Big C, your thoughts? That makes sense to you?
Well, Charlton, I'm sensitive to political correctness because what is political correctness? What is it? Appeases some person and say, well, I don't think that we should say this because it will tell people how we generally feel if we use this terminology or language. The entire world deals with racism, and wherever you are, it doesn't make any difference what country. It's there because all ethnicities do not get along, and they don't all see eye to eye.
Yeah.
Even people within their own culture don't see eye to eye.
Yeah.
So, to sit there and say that somebody made something that was insensitive and that they should apologize for it or they should be suspended for it, what you're doing is telling people they shouldn't live life. I would rather that people be open and honest about their feelings. At least I have an understanding of the stance they take, and I need to know if I need to take a wide berth around it. But why sit in a room or at a desk with somebody who's lying in your face, and the minute that the door is closed, they're talking about you behind your back?
Yeah.
This is one reason they should never have closed-door sessions. It's like at the White House. When Trump makes statements and anybody else in the administration, who's in the room when it happens?
Yeah.
I mean, that's the question that you always have to ask. Who is in the room where it happens? Because when they walk outside that room, Charlton, just like with NFL owners and all of that, comments that are made within that room when the doors close, you know they're against the rest of the people that are on the outside of that room.
Yeah.
So why do you ever have the damn door closed when you're having these conversations?
Yeah, there's a lot of conversation. That's one thing I love about doing the Big C Sports Show. As I tell my mom, we don't use profanity. What we do is just talk about things that people can Google, and that's all fair in love and war. But I do want to ask you a thought on something. And I was talking about it when you were I think you were at one of the POTUS rallies about a week or two ago, Washington Redskins. They announced today, Big C, that the name Redskin and its logo will no longer exist. Owner Daniel Snyder, I think it's head coach Ron Rivera, they're looking at a new name and an emblem that will represent the city. And I think that's beautiful. I know there's a lot of players that have played there. I heard Dale Green on a program earlier this morning saying how he would be happy if they were to get rid of it. He's been one of the longtime players for the Redskins in their history. But give me your thoughts, because I said only two things would make him change, because there were so many times he said, "I'll not tolerate anyone changing the name Redskin." You know, it makes him feel proud when he said the name Redskin. I said it would be money or fear of death that would cause him to change his name, and I think money went out. Bixby, your thoughts?
Well, you think about Darrell Green. He spent 20 years with that organization, Charlton. The name Redskins has been the moniker of the Washington team since 1933.
Wow.
So it has a long-standing history in that city, you know, many, many years, almost 80 years, 90 years of representing that city.
Yeah.
You also have to understand that the Washington team was the last team to have a Negro player in the NFL to don that uniform. I believe it was 1963.
Yeah.
Was the first time they had a Negro player that played for the Skins there in Washington. So as you look at Daniel Snyder and his refusal to change the name or bend the pressure in years past, because he's owned this organization now for 20 years.
Yeah.
Long time that he's had this organization, an illustrious history there in the Washington area, but everything succumbs to pressure after time. And
Yep.
that's what Daniel Snyder is now. It became economical pressure. When you can no longer sell the merchandise that represents a team that everybody has pulled it off and nobody will produce it for you, that's a huge economical hit. So that stance that you had of being cocky and arrogant, went down the toilet with everything else.
I've heard of cocky stuff going down the toilet, Big C, but never someone's ego. Is it really? Because I was being flippant when I was saying only the fear of death or losing money would make him change the name, that he felt so proud to keep calling that name. For whatever reason, it did something to his spirit to use that name Redskin and to have it stuck on the side of a helmet. But I want to ask your opinion, and I don't know the answer, and maybe you don't, but it's just an opinion. What was it about holding on to that name for so many years when even guys that he played for said, "Hey, man, maybe we should pump our brakes on that and give it a change"? And he said, "I'll not tolerate changing." What is it about that name that meant so much to him that makes only the fear of losing money get rid of it, Big C? Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, my personal feeling on Daniel Snyder is that he felt the power because of the social, epithet that it had, that it appalled so many people. And he has that little man mentality also. Daniel Snyder's a guy who stands under 5'9", so he walked around with the arrogance and all that said, "I can control the mentality of all these people." But the one thing that brought him in line, Charlton, was the finances. You think about the millions of dollars in merchandising revenue that he's going to lose every year starts to affect his bottom line. And then when his partner's wanting to sell out, and you got to understand that FedEx is one of his partners, and they also do the shipping of that product, which cuts down the overhead and increases the profit. So, people always have a change of heart when it comes to the bottom line. When you start affecting my bottom line dollar, I will consciously, consider what you're saying. And when you cut me off, and I know that, instead of going through sitting down at a 5-star restaurant, I got to go through a drive-through window now. I'm really going to listen to you.
Yeah, could you be Snyder coming through the drive-thru window and he's looking for the dollar menu because he didn't want to change the name? His life is funny. And what was that movie Eddie Murphy wrote it was Trading Places? Eddie Murphy had that great movie about some billionaires that changed places in life. But it's all fair in love and war. I don't know the name that they've chosen. I think that's still up for discussion. Big C, he and Coach Rivera. I'm sure a lot of the people that make decisions in that organization. But when I thought about something that you brought up, it was Red Tails for the Tuskegee Airmen that never lost a battle in World War II, African-American Fighting Squadron. And I think African-Americans make up the majority of the people in the Washington, D.C. area. Red Tails would be
85% of the population.
85%. Okay, that's a lot of population. That would be a really good way to pay homage to something decent, as opposed to President Trump wanted to make it a crime to desecrate a Confederate statue, Big C. So it probably won't happen, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, I think that will be one of the forefront runners of the name change that's going to come up. I mean, there's a lot of moniker that goes along with it, a lot of symbolism, and a lot of history. When you're talking about paying homage to great American citizens, these Negro pilots of World War II, Charlton, and the job that they did in helping support the troops overseas during World War II, and also representing this great country, it shows the plight of Negroes in America and the ingenuity that they had, and how America got to be the great country that it is because of the Negro intervention.
Big C. Touchdown, Red Tails! It would pay homage to the defense of this country. People talk about don't take a knee when the flag is out. I mean, never take a knee for the national anthem. Talk about the name Red Tail.
Well, think about this, Charlton. When you think about the city of Washington, D.C., it was designed by African Americans. The White House was built by African Americans. The bricks of Washington, D.C., majority of them are laid by Negroes in this country. So as we think about paying homage to the productivity of Negroes and the plight that they have in American history, it would pay great homage making that team, the Red Tails, to be synonymous along with the rest of the Negro history in the D.C. market.
Yeah, and then the museum is there in D.C. also. Big C, it makes so much sense. It makes as much sense as washing your hands before you eat and wearing a mask when you're in the crowd. So we'll see if he has that decency. But it's just funny how he might have to drive through the fast food restaurant and ask for the dollar menu, all because he didn't want to do right. But I wish him all the best, and I hope they change the name to Red Tail, just my opinion. Patriot League, Big C? The Patriot League, they canceled all fall sports due to COVID-19 pandemic. That POTUS, he refused to wear a mask until I think he was at a Washington area hospital just last week. But they're canceling because of the pandemic, following last week's decision by the Ivy League. We just talked about follow the leader last week, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, as you look at these conferences that are on the East Coast, that are taking the lead in letting people know what a student athlete is. In representing the health of the student athlete over all else, Charlton, that's how important it is. As we look at some of these conferences and they're talking about we're only going to play conference games. Just because you play conference game and non-conference games does not mean that the pandemic doesn't follow you around. And these conferences that are talking about staying open in the Power Five, they have more of the pandemic is spreading on their campuses than all these other campuses that we've seen, Charlton. So as we look at college football and think about the economics over health, it's what it's come down to. And as an athletic director, you have to decide what means the most. And I look at Gene Smith, the Ohio State athletic director, Charlton, probably the most powerful athletic director in all of the United States, and he's a Negro man. And, I think the rest of the conference will take his lead as far as where he goes. If they decide to play football at Ohio State, the rest of the conference will play. But I know that Governor Mike DeWine of Ohio last week declared a mask order for the entire state of Ohio.
That's a good thing.
I hope that athletic director Gene Smith follows that directive from the governor and forces all these athletes to wear a mask. And by them wearing masks, Charlton, they'll see that they cannot compete in that, and maybe they'll back off of playing sports.
Yeah, it makes sense. Last I checked, Big C, when I get up in the morning, the sun always rises from the east, and it sets in the west. However, the West Coast, Larry Scott, he's the athletic commissioner for the Pac-12 Conference, Pacific 12 Conference, and they're saying they want to play fall football, but you could believe his butt tested positive for COVID-19. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, he's saying they want to play football. He's saying the commissioners and the athletic directors want to play football. One of the amazing things that I've seen throughout this pandemic is that I haven't heard press conferences from players, whether it's professional or collegiate, standing up there unilaterally and saying, no, we're 100% against the science of COVID-19, and we want to go out there and put our butts on the line. We don't give a damn if we get sick or whatever. We just want to go out there and play and appease everybody so they can make these millions and millions of dollars, and we don't get a damn dime out of it. But if we get sick, oh well, maybe they'll pay our medical bill.
Well, ironically, and I wish Mr. Scott the best, but he is sick, and he's saying that it's okay for the kids to go out and play and try not to get what he just caught. It came out today, the second largest school district in the United States of America is Los Angeles Unified Big City. They're only second to New York City, over 600,000 kids from K through 12, and they announced today that they will not have class this fall semester. They're going to keep doing it online because COVID has been spiking in Southern California. And I told you they were also saying California high schools would most likely not have high school football, in Texas as well. New Mexico's already ruled out high school football. You have the number 2 school district in the United States of America, and Betsy DeVos and Donald Trump are going to tell 600,000 kids, that means they all have at least one parent, Big C, that they're going to take funding over 600,000 kids say they want to stay safe. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, when you look at the asinineness, Charlton, of the administration, when they're talking about taking away federal funding from schools, that means you're going to take away the meal programs, Charlton, that so many of these kids rely on, whether they go by to school and pick it up or attend school. But to be having the willingness to put all of these kids and their families in harm's way of this COVID-19, that shows the callousness that's coming out of this administration. That the human life really means nothing to him. It's all about the bottom line dollar and how he looks, as well as Betsy DeVos. I mean, those two people are millionaires. They don't have to worry about making ends meet at the end of the month, Charlton. But as you look at these parents who struggle, the grandparents who take care of these kids, as well as the teachers who are the administrators in these schools, Charlton, many of these teachers have pre-existing conditions, as well as their spouses have pre-existing conditions, and their parents. So you're talking about asymptomatic, and they say, well, kids' immune system is strong. Every day that we look at the news, Charlton, there's some minor under 18 years old losing their lives to this COVID-19. So you put them in these petri dishes of environments, and the last I checked in every school system, Charlton, there's this thing called overcrowding in the classroom.
Of course.
Where classrooms are supposed to be under 30 students.
Yeah.
And we have classes that get to the area of 40 students in a class. Let Donald Trump go stand in one of these classes for 5 hours without a face mask and deal with these students and the teachers, then say that it's safe.
You know that Tulsa rally, I think he had about 6,000 people, and I think they had over 10 people test positive. That's within his own circle from some Secret Service people. And then we know his his children tested positive, right? Even though they blame the girlfriend only, even though they sleep together. But 6,000 people and 10 came up positive. You're talking 600,000 people, and they're saying, hey, it's okay. It'll just wash right through. LA Superintendent Austin Brutner said that the fall semester will begin on August 18th. However, they're going to do it online because for some reason in Los Angeles, they tend to believe in science. I don't know what it is about those guys, but they trust science over politics. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, also look at the Virginia School District, Charlton, which is giving parents 2 options. You can either do 2 days in school and the other 2 days online learning, Charlton, or you can stay at home and do online learning. And there's so many students and parents that have decided to do the online learning, Charlton, at home because they don't want to put people at risk. And to listen to some of the students talk about it, Charlton, talking about they didn't want to affect their grandparents, they didn't want to affect the adults in their families, Charlton, or even their siblings. To understand the intelligence of young people, that they're not easily swayed anymore. They understand all of what goes on television. They attend town hall meetings, Charlton. They listen to the science, and they also listen to the buffoonery when we're talking about economics. Economics doesn't mean much to a 16, 17-year-old, Charlton, when you're talking about getting the economy back up again when they don't have a job. But they understand that their parents still need to support them. But they also understand that their parents still need to stay healthy to be able to take care of them through the rest of their, K through 12 years as well as that college education. Yeah,
they do. And as you know, a lot of people are not in the best of shape. It just happens as you get older. A lot of school teachers are not in the best shape at all. And plus, they're going to go sit down all day in a classroom with people between K and 12. Doesn't make a lot of sense. Even restaurants, I've said, you can't come in. They had restaurants open for a short time in California. Even some gyms they allowed to open up. And then it started to spike again, so I don't know if they're going to close gyms again, but they have closed a lot of restaurants, and that's just over the weekend, Big C. The third largest city in the United States of America is the Windy City. It's called Chicago, Illinois. Well, COVID-19 concerns it forces the cancellation of the Chicago Marathon. It's financed by it's called the Bank of America. Chicago Marathon has been canceled due to health concerns, not politics, Big C, but health concerns for runners and spectators and volunteers and others during the COVID-19 pandemic, and that was announced today. It was set to start, I think, right around October, and they have about 55,000 people that were going to run, actually about 45,000 that were going to run in that race. But they also believe in science in Chicago more than politics. Big C, your thoughts?
Now that's an outdoor event, isn't it?
Outdoor event, Big C.
Okay, so we're talking about them understanding the health and science of an outdoor event. You cannot
Yep.
put that many people that close together. And that comes in correlation, Charlton, as we talk about football being played, which is an outdoor event.
Yeah.
This is the same type of tight confinement or outdoor confinement that you look at when you look at one of those events. If the city of Chicago is at precedent where they're saying we're going to cancel a marathon, think about the Chicago Bears playing in that city, Charlton. You think about Northwestern University, which is not too far away from that. The University of Illinois, Charlton, that is there in that same market. And they have these huge stadiums where you're going to put a lot of athletes and spectators in the stands. So, I mean, as we look at the science of cities saying we're going to cancel these things, the cities are also going to have to rear their heads, Charlton, when it comes to collegiate athletics. To say, okay, if we're canceling these social events that are non-paying events, technically, we're also going to have to cancel these events where we're putting a lot of citizens in our community in harm's way, and there's no way to protect themselves.
Yeah, and it's just a matter of the information going out there. There are people who will put their heads in the sand, but most people will keep their heads out of the sand. I do want to, I know the NFL, before we come up on the Big C pause, NFL, the Arizona Cardinals, the owner, Bill Bidwell, he's also tested positive for COVID-19. And unlike Donald Trump saying it's really not that bad, only 1% are affected, and he's hospitalized in Rhode Island, so I wish thoughts and prayers. But he's the owner of the Arizona Cardinals, Big C. They moved their franchise out of St. Louis and into Arizona, and he's dealing with the hospitalization. And unfortunately, we don't hear a lot of athletes being hospitalized, so people keep thinking they can keep taking chances. It's okay to play Russian roulette with young and strong people, but we're seeing from younger people as well as people up in age that are testing positive. But he's in the hospital, so this is more real to him than it is even to the Trump administration, even though I'm sure Betsy DeVos would say, well, he'll get over it. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, there have been several professional athletes hospitalized behind this COVID-19. You have to look no further than the sports where you have athletes saying they're withdrawing and not participating. That's because of COVID-19, not because of speculation of getting the disease, but because they've had the disease. So they don't want to participate any longer because they know the health risk if they go back out there. As you look at football and with the Bidwells, Oakley and the NFL have come out with this new face shield that is supposed to potentially protect players from pathogens flying in between each other.
Really?
That's not going to happen, Charlton, because when you think about football, you're face-to-face. You're within 3 to 4 inches of that other individual's mouth and breathing pathway.
Yeah.
Because when you make contact with the helmet and the face mask, Charlton, you're face-to-face, and whatever you hit is going to constantly ricochet back and forth between those two.
Yeah.
So I don't think that Oakley or anybody else can develop a protective face shield. Not only that, players have a problem breathing with that shield over their eyes.
I know it.
Now you're talking about putting a shield over their face inside a helmet that's 100-plus degrees, Charlton.
Yep.
Passengers are going to fly. Players are not going to be able to breathe properly. I know once they start training camp, if it gets going, this is something that they're supposed to be experimenting with in training camp.
Yeah.
I tried the shield decades ago, Charlton, when I was playing. It was something that was very uncomfortable, and that was just over the eye cover.
Yeah.
And so I still allowed offensive linemen to poke me in the face after that. So, but, as you're looking at these players who wear the eye shield, now you're asking them to put a face shield on also, Charlton.
Yeah.
I think it would cause more problems than what it's worth.
Yeah, you go to people to poking you in the eye so they get a call from face mask and Big C. Hey, that's called being committed to winning. We'll take what's called a Big C timeout, also known as a Big C pause. We'll be back in just a moment. We're going to talk more about some other players that got poked in the eye. We'll be back in just a moment. All right, we are back from the Big C Timeout, also known as the Big C Pause. And you don't have to get poked in the eye for the Big C Sports Show, but you can follow Big C Sports 24 hours a day, 7 days a week on the #1 podcast network in the universe, iHeartRadio Podcast. You can follow Big C Sports on Apple Podcasts. You can follow Big C Sports on Google Podcasts. There's a lot of apps that you can follow Big C Sports all over the world, and I really appreciate the way things are growing with Big C Sports. Did you say you maybe sometime I don't hear well. I know I got 2 ears to listen, 1 mouth to talk. Did you say you poked guys in the eye, or they poked you in the eye for fun, Big C? Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, I tried wearing the shield because on several occasions, as an offensive lineman would say, he accidentally poked me in the eye and his hands got up too high.
Yeah.
And that's a place where you're not supposed to use your hands.
Yep.
But a lot of people don't realize, if you're looking back into the 50s in the NFL, originally the NFL used a plexiglass face mask that looked like that face shield that they had now. It was just part of the lower jaw part of the helmet, Charlton. But the NFL originally back in the 50s experimented with a plexiglass face mask.
Well, that's I just learned that today from you, Big C. It's all fair level, where I hope your eyes are okay. No wonder you wear glasses every now and then. Major League Baseball, Betsy DeVos and Donald Trump, there's a player on the East Coast. He's one of the most dominant pitchers in Major League Baseball, unless he's pitching against Altuve, Big C. So, Aroldis Chapman also tested positive for COVID-19. And again, this is what they're hoping. They're saying, this guy's big, strong, and fast, and he'll be okay. It's just a matter of time. And so people keep their head in the sand. But Chapman, he's a closer for the Yankees. I think the most dominant pitcher in baseball, unless he's pitching to Altuve. He tests positive for COVID-19. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, as we look at these players and Altuve, who tested positive, he also has a teammate who has been hospitalized, for testing positive for COVID-19, and it really knocked him down. So these players can't stay safe as well as anybody in America, Charlton, cannot stay safe. If you put yourself out there in harm's way, there's a percentage of you that are going to protect it. You can't wear a face mask all the time.
Yeah.
You're going to be in physical contact with other individuals. So how are players supposed to practice social distancing when you have an umpire who's leaning over the shoulder of a catcher?
Yeah.
When you have a catcher that's within a bat-length proximity of a batter? When you have a first baseman trying to hold on a guy who has gotten a single at first base? When you have someone trying to steal second base and you got players covered for him? I'm still trying to understand how you practice social distancing.
Yeah, and ironic, sometimes you got to read between the lines. So New York Yankees manager Aaron Boone, he said on Saturday that Chapman's doing fine overall. He's doing well. Overall, he's doing well, but he will not be here for the foreseeable future. If you're doing well, what's this not be here for the foreseeable future, Big C? Your thoughts?
Well, I think about Aroldis Chapman a couple of years ago, Charlton. He had to go through emergency skull surgery where he was struck in the head by a line drive back to the mound, Charlton, and they had to remove part of his scalp to take the pressure off of his brain. So when you think about this now, this man has a pre-existing condition, lifetime condition. So who knows how coronavirus is going to affect his brain during this span, Charlton. So saying doing well is not a guarantee that everything is great.
Yeah, and he's not a doctor. He's a baseball manager. So Chapman, he threw a bullpen session last week. Boone would not comment on whether the left-hander at Bennett Yankee Stadium since, and he said that the team had done contract tracing and no other players or personnel would be forced to isolate because of what happened to Chapman. So, they're just telling you they're willing to let people go and get whatever they got to get so they can get that money coming from baseball. It's up to the players at some point in time to decide if they decide not to. Would you believe on the West Coast, Big C, there's another closer. His name is Kenley Jensen, Big C. He also tested positive for COVID-19. They said that he's already doing better, and he's ready to come back and play baseball. Now, if there's a positive side to this, and if there is a positive side, I think they're looking for, sometimes when we say things, I don't know if it comes true or not, but I was saying, and I know you've been saying, they want to use as many athletes as possible, like Tuskegee Experiment Part 2, to see how they'll recover. Because there are people in the hospital, and then there are people that don't have to go to the hospital, and they're saying that he is going to have the face coverings. He's already ready to come back, but they don't know the long-term ramifications, Big C. That makes sense to you? Your thoughts?
Well, when you think of COVID-19, Charlton, it does a lot of internal organ scarring to the human body. And that's what no one understands is the long-term effects of that. You can talk about people having antibodies in their system, but no one knows how long these antibodies are going to last.
Yeah, they don't know. But again, sometimes I wish I was right on the lottery, Big C. At the same time, when we say they're going to use as many athletes, predominantly African-American athletes, to see what happens to them, and then they're going to decide if they're going to shut down the league or not. But it's all fair and level war. I wish Jansen the best. I know athletes sometimes they feel that they can do anything, and oftentimes when they go out and do it, I just hope the long term is going to be okay for that young man. Also, NBA basketball. Now, there's other players, just like Jensen, he didn't say when he came positive. They're saying he did it in the past, and now he's about ready to come back. So the Houston Rockets in the NBA, down in the bubble, they have Russell Westbrook that has come out and said he tested positive for COVID-19. Now, his right-hand man, James Harden, hasn't shown up yet as far as I know. So I don't know what's the status of James Harden, but when one guy doesn't show up and his right-hand man doesn't show up, does that make sense to you, Big C? Your thoughts?
Well, when I look at James Harden, and I know that Russ said that he's tested positive, James Harden has a VIP seat in all the strip clubs in Houston. So, I know the environment he loves to hang out in.
Yeah.
So he hangs out in an environment where everybody's close to each other.
Poke him in the eyes.
So I would not be surprised if Russ went out with James on one night, and that's how he got it.
I thought that was the Dallas Cowboy players where they're having those parties, and Dak Prescott and all the Ezekiel Elliott. Maybe it's because of Texas. Texas tends to do things a little bit late. But I wish all the guys well. But I may sound a little bit flippant. But I'm going to say something stupid, but it won't be the first time. When players test positive for an STD, whether it's college or high school or professional, they don't make that known to the public. As many guys travel around the country and they happen to lip lock with a lot of people, like Donald Trump's son with that new woman that he has. But guys always feel they'll just take a pill, they'll take an injection, and they'll go back out to doing whatever. I remember, and it's real conversation, a lot of athletes have this conversation. The coaches would tell players, when I was in college, if you're going to go out there and interact with women, make sure you go get your checkup we had what's called the medical center on campus, Big C, and they would make sure that guys got a checkup to make sure they didn't have an STD, to make sure that whatever they did, they knew their status before they went out and did that. And to me, it just feels like COVID-19 is starting to be treated the same way. Does that make sense to you, Big C? Your thoughts?
I don't think that it's being treated the same way. I think I look at our administration, who really doesn't give a damn about COVID-19. They're all about saying it's a political ploy from the Democrats. And I remember hearing that from day one, that COVID-19 was a political ploy from the Democrats to hurt a re-election. And you didn't want to take accountability for it. And that's still the same moniker that's being used now, Charlton, that COVID-19 is nothing. It's just going to go away. You just have to live with it. Just like they told the Tuskegee Institute experiment on Negroes, Charlton, back in the 40s. We're giving you syphilis. You're just going to have to live with it. We're not going to get rid of it, even though we have a way to do it. We look at COVID-19, Charlton, and this has become a politicized pandemic. No one cares about the people of America. As long as you keep lying and denying that we've gotten from our administration, then people kind of have a tendency to think, well, it's not that bad.
Yeah.
But all of a sudden last week, you saw POTUS don a mask. Why did he don a mask? But when you look at his cabinet meetings and his press conferences that he have on television, Charlton, have you ever looked to see who's in the room with him? I mean, who's in the room where it happens? I mean, that's the key thing that America has not paid attention to. Who's in the room where it happens every time POTUS holds an event? It's people who look like him, Charlton.
Yeah.
We don't have a multicultural diversity in the room where it happens, where the decisions are made. When you see these people coming out and they're his surrogates on television, they look like him.
Yeah.
That's who's in the room where it happens. So that room where it happens doesn't represent the well-being of the United States. It represents the well-being of the people that look like him. And so when you're getting a message and they're saying this is what needs to happen, but all of those people in the room where it happens, Charlton, will not spend an entire day with the people who have to go out there and be the guinea pigs. And that's what America needs to understand. You're not willing to put yourself at risk, but you're willing to put all of us at risk for your economic and social gain.
Yeah, I guess when he goes and he wants to thank the first responders, and he was in the hospital, finally he wore a mask this time because they probably wouldn't let his butt in if he didn't have one, Big C. But we know people are going to do what they want to do. I do want to ask you your thoughts. I think it was Bidwell, the owner of the Arizona Cardinals franchise. He's actually in a hospital. Now, when I was just thinking about this, the NFL, they're thinking about doing what the NBA is doing, but they're not in a bubble. So you got 32 teams in the NFL, and those 32 teams consist of about 20 different states. California has, several teams. They just lost the Raiders to Vegas. But when Dallas has a couple of teams, New York has a couple of teams, Florida has a couple of teams. And to me, when you talk about testing players every day or every other day, like they're doing down in the NBA bubble, they can't leave. They got to stay in that bubble. So if someone's playing for the 49ers and they're going to fly down south to play the Chargers or the Rams, and then you have the Raiders in Las Vegas, they're going to fly across the country to play the Denver Broncos, or Kansas City's going to go down to the East Coast and play New England. At some point in time, you lose what the NBA is bragging on about the bubble, Big C. That makes sense to you.
Well, Chauncey, you've already had several players that have walked out of their room in the bubble, so they're going to have to be quarantined for an extra 14 days. And so I question, do those players really want to play? Because they knew the rules when they walked into the bubble that they were not supposed to leave their room until they passed so many quarantine tests.
Yeah.
Well, when you talk about the expansion of the NFL and having to travel from team to team, you think about the states that are real hot spots as far as the NFL is concerned. You look at Florida. They have 3 teams. The hottest state in the country right now with the spread of the pandemic, Miami, Tampa, and Jacksonville. You talked about California. 2 teams in Los Angeles, 1 in San Francisco. Epic centers in the state of California as far as the pandemic. We talk about Texas. There's 2 teams in Texas, 1 in Houston, 1 in Dallas.
Yeah.
These are the 3 hottest states in the country, Charlton, as far as the spread of this pandemic. Pennsylvania has 2 teams, and you have the Eagles and the Steelers. You look at the state of New York. Well, the state of New York actually only has 1 team. New Jersey has 2 of them that are placating that their New York team, in the Jets and the Giants.
Yeah.
But as we look around this country, Charlton, and the participation of these states and these athletes, not only are these athletes living in states that are hot spots, Charlton, that the coronavirus is spiking, but then you're talking about putting them in an airplane, which we know is a petri dish because you're recycling the same air.
Yeah.
And you can't practice social distancing on the airplane because you're going to have 100 people on that airplane that are representing that team.
Yeah.
Now you're flying across country, Charlton. How do you isolate these players for 48 hours? That means you got to come out at least 3 days before the game and isolate everybody, test everybody, Charlton, to make sure you don't have COVID-19. So as they talk about the economics of the NFL has not implemented a system where you can keep players safe. The NBA players, when they went to Orlando, they had to do a 48-hour quarantine to guarantee that they were not carrying COVID-19.
Yeah.
You're going to have to do the same thing in professional baseball, Charlton, in NBA basketball, NFL football. You got to leave out. You got a Sunday game. You got to leave on Thursday now.
Yeah.
Friday and Saturday, you got to go through testing to make sure that you're clear to be able to play on Sunday if you're going to follow your own guidelines.
If they're going to, maybe they're poking each other in the eyes the way you said you used to poke yourself in the eye. There's some guys in the NBA, I hear they broke their own hand so they wouldn't have to play in the bubble. A hand will heal, Big C. Going around the world, when you think about it, where COVID-19 has hit hardest, United States has been hit the hardest. And when you think about it, and that's in the past 24 hours, United States is over 60,000. And then you have Brazil over 45,000, India over 28,000, and then the state of Florida itself over 15,000. And that was just news that came out over the weekend. So I don't know. Everybody's going to do what they want to do. Big C, I know you drive a lot of cars. And when you're driving your car, when you're driving around mountains, all the highway patrol or the people who build the highways, all they can do is say, slow down, winding road ahead. That's all they can do. But they can't make you slow down. People do what they want to. You mentioned the guy down in the bubble in Orlando. The players for the Sacramento Kings, Rashawn Holmes. He's back in quarantine because he got smart. And he decided to walk out of the bubble. He wanted some fast food He wanted to meet up with Dan Snyder, Big C, go to a fast food restaurant. so he could get kicked out of the bubble. So guys are not as dumb as people think, Mixon. Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, the Houston Rockets also had a player that left out of the bubble.
Oh, really?
He wanted to get something. You think about that, three players from the Houston Rockets. You got Harden, you got Westbrook, and this other player who left the bubble, who are now not being able to practice with the team. So they're already undermanned going into this scenario, Charlton. As you look around, and I keep saying, they always have spokespersons for the players saying that they're dying to get out there and play. I want to see the players hold this unilateral press conference that we're willing to go out there despite the science and say we might get sick and take the chance to go out there and get this ring.
Yeah.
We want to go out there and win this $15,000 ring and put our lives on the line because this is the only chance we may ever have in life
ring
to win one.
Yeah. For a ring. You know, I mean, the numbers might be wrong. I think Tiger Woods' divorce cost, some people say $750 million, others say $200 million. It was a lot of money to spend for a ring, or was it after the ring was taken off the hand? Why does it cost more when the ring is taken off the hand than when you put it on the hand, Big C? Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, I mean, it's cheaper to keep it.
Yeah, it costs $700 million to take the ring off, only $20 million to put it on. Doesn't make any sense. But hey, I'm not the smartest guy in the universe. It's all fair and level. University of Texas, they put a ring on the hand, and University of Texas, the Longhorns, Big C, they're renaming the football field, and they might want to rethink it, but maybe not. The new name would be after Heisman Trophy running backs Earl Campbell and Ricky Sticky Icky Williams. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, you think about the change in the state of Texas. Texas was the last state to abolish slavery in American in the United States, where Negroes were finally free.
Yeah.
And for them to take this huge step down at the University of Austin, Texas, Charlton, where you're going to rename the field there at the University of Texas behind two Negro Heisman Trophy winners that have represented that great university.
Yeah.
The great Earl Campbell, you know, the Tyler Rose, and now you got, as you call him, Ricky Sticky Icky Williams, the second Heisman Trophy winner for that university. That is a huge stride when you think about where this state has gone, Charlton, over time. 1865, where they abolished slavery in that state. In 2020, where they're going to name the field that all the great athletes at the University of Texas play football on after these two Negro Heisman Trophy winners that represented that university. Also not to be lost in translation, Charlton. You know, a guy that you have great revere for, Lyndon Johnson, was from the state of Texas, who passed the Voting Rights Act for Negroes in America.
Yeah, I think it's a good. If you could get people to do anything right in Texas, Big C, there's hope for the universe. If they do it in Texas, there's hope for the universe, Big C. I want to tell you, there's something that we talk about all the time. So it's nothing new when I hear about it, but I am proud when I hear smart men talking about it. There's a thing that's going on. It's on NBC Sports West here in Northern California. I'm sure they're all over the country, but they just had the celebrity, the championship golf tournament up in Lake Tahoe. Beautiful Lake Tahoe over the weekend is a gorgeous place. It's called the American Century Championship. Of course, you didn't have the people, but that's a gorgeous golf course, and the lake is beautiful. But they have NBA stars Charles Barkley, and then three-time world champion and two-time MVP, only unanimous MVP in the NBA history, Steph Curry. They're going to talk about race, sports, and then being rich and black in America. They still face some challenges, even though they have what's called the FU money, like Adrian Wojnarowski told to the politician. They got the FU money, Big C. I want my mama to know it wasn't my words. But they have that kind of money, but they still deal with people giving them their own kind of pushback, even though they could buy almost everybody that wants to insult them. Big C, your thoughts?
Yeah, but Charlton, regardless of what kind of money they have, they're still Negro in America. That's the bottom line. We've seen the mistreatment of Negroes for 400 years in America. I mean, you think about where President Obama stood when he was commander-in-chief of this country.
Yeah.
Think about the racialism that he had to deal with, and he was the most powerful man in the world. He was more respected outside the United States than he was in the United States. So we've had a plight of prominent black, Negro, African-American, however you want to identify them in this country. Athletes, non-athletes. We all live under the same moniker, that we're a black Negroes in America. We're not white. We're not born under the same privilege tree. We're not born under the same opportunity tree. We've had to fight since our inception in this country of the United States, Charlton, to gain and gather everything that we have gotten. We have always had to work our way up the totem pole to try to get towards the top scores of achievement. Even with all the accomplishments that Negroes have made in this country, Charlton, whether it's in the world of physics, whether it's in the world of science, whether it's in the world of politics, architecture, sports, wherever you want to look, every generation of Negro in America can sit down and have a conversation about the hard times and the plight of its time. We have Negro billionaires in this country, Charlton, that are not respected. Forget about the millionaire athletes, but we can't get a table with these billionaires to be able to sit down with white billionaires and figure out what the total solution is for America. The one thing people don't want to give up, Charlton, is what they have. It's like, trade this position with me. No, I'm not. I'm going to keep what I have. And as long as white society in America, Charlton, can always put up monikers and statues to represent the oppression of the Negro in America, they will always do that. That is the reason for the big fight against the removal of statues. Not the tearing down, but the removal. Put them in museums. Put them in places where you want to have them. Put them in a cemetery where that person is buried. But that is a representation of the power that we had over you people. This is the reason why we put them on pedestals up high, so you're always having to look up to it. We always want you to know that you are beneath us. If you are a Negro in America and I'm white in America, you will always be beneath us.
Yeah, that comes from some of that old colonial thinking, Big C, and there's still people it may mean a lot to them. I never really understood it because I know that all life comes from Africa. So when someone tries to preach about supremacy, I know they're just ignorant at the same time. People have a right to their own opinion. I want to also, I remember this thing with, I think it was LeBron James. Man, our show goes by way too fast. LeBron James and Dwayne Wade and Carmelo Anthony, and I may be missing a couple other players with the Black Lives Matter shirt at the ESPYs in LA a couple of years ago. And now there are people questioning LeBron whether he doesn't want to have anything on the back of his shirt. But he's done so much, I don't think he has to explain that. That make any sense to you, your thoughts?
Well, you know, I appreciate all athletes, regardless of the sport, Charlton, who want to put the Black Lives banner on their shirts. But I think some genuineness was lost behind that because it was the NBA who stated what they could wear on their uniforms, Charlton. It wasn't left up to the athlete. It had to be NBA okayed or WNBA okayed what they put on their jerseys. Because I think at that point you lose some of the genuineness of what that particular athlete may be thinking. So this is a league-controlled scenario that, yes, you're being able to put out there on your jersey, but it's what we feel is appropriate. What we feel you should say and represent, not what your genuinism is as an individual. So we're going to take that black control away from you and still let you know that you work for us.
And the one of the co-owners of the Atlanta Dream WNBA, she doesn't even want them to have anything to say Black Lives Matter, but I wouldn't play for that woman. They should boycott her. Just sit out for the whole season, especially during COVID-19. Why you want to make her some money?
Charlton, it's not even about sitting out the season. This is where the commissioner of the league and the rest of the owners have to step up. We saw Donald Sterling saying that you could not hang out with those Negroes if you're going to be dealing with me in Los Angeles when he held the Clippers. And the next thing you know, that the league made him sell his stake in the organization. I think that same thing should be done in the WNBA when you have Kelly Loeffler, a senator in the state of Georgia, saying that Black lives don't matter, and she doesn't want to see that represented in the league, because she is white and white only.
Okay, so why would they keep her in a position for being that egotistical and ignorant, and there's no punishment for her? Why is that, Dixie, your thoughts?
I don't think it's egotistical. I think it's just straight-out racism, Charlton. When you're a United States senator and you make that type of auspicious statement that black lives don't matter and that black people should not be armed when they're protesting, only white people should be able to arm themselves because then black people become dangerous. So she's saying that white people are not dangerous when they're shooting black people in the street, and she's making a statement that black lives don't matter. That's straight up racial, Charlton. That's not dumb and ignorant. You're telling people how you feel and what you are. And not only that, this is not a person that makes just a decision for a basketball team. This is a person that makes decisions on the way that you live in America. What you're allowed to have and not have in America. This is one of these people that works in the Senate that votes against, what happened to the president, the impeachment of a president that passes laws. This is one of those people who says that black lives doesn't matter, not just in making a statement against her basketball team, Charlton, but also against society in America.
Yeah, I wish my mother happy birthday, and it does matter, and all life came from Africa, so hopefully that Congresswoman, Senator can read about that. I want to just close out in the last couple of minutes. Major League Baseball, and they have a group. We were just talking about this. Man, they keep stealing our stuff, Big C. But we were saying to the African-American players to form your own league, especially when you play for an owner that says your life doesn't matter. But Major League Baseball, they have a group of people led by Jennifer Lopez and also A-Rod and a couple other players. Travis Kelce, he's in the NFL players. And there's just so many. Alex Rodriguez. They're trying to put some money together to buy the New York Mets baseball team. And I don't know if it's going to happen, but there's always some insight going on when the owner says, if they come up with the right price, I'll sell it to them. Okay? But only he knows what the right price is because he's the owner. But your thoughts on that happening, Big C? Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, the right price in purchasing a major league organization is the rest of the owners, Charlton. You have to get a 2/3 vote of approval to be able to buy a professional franchise. So you have to, get these other 2/3 of the owners of the league to agree with you owning the that particular organization and being a part of their fraternity. So it's not as easy as what you think. You can walk in with all the money in the world, but you have 2/3 of the ownership of a league. I believe it's 30 teams in Major League Baseball. You got to convince 20 other owners that they want to sit down and break bread with you.
Yeah, and they'll sit down and break bread if the money's right, but we'll see.
No, it's not even about money. It's about keeping privacy, Charlton. Money. You got to realize these guys have had money forever. They got generational wealth. And when you think about professional owners, it's about who they want to have in that exclusive club. It's like membership at Augusta National in Atlanta, where they don't let everybody in. Regardless of the amount of money you got, they're not going to let you come down there and play and join that club. It's about the exclusivity of being able to talk and act the way that you want without having that get out. And you got to think about these owners. You think they're going to be that friendly to let people who are in the media join that organization? These people who have open mics and have criticized them over time?
Well, we'll find out. Just like Daniel Snyder can change when the money changes people, Big C. Final story. They had to go over to Dubai, and Cameron Usman, he ruled the fight island. He showed his dominance to a man that spoke a big game, and George modeled it all, but he got beat 5 rounds to none. And, Usman has great takedown skills. If you let him get you on the ground, you may as well, mail it in. But he dominated in the UFC 251. And now he has a chance to chase some history. He's had 12 consecutive fights undefeated. He just tied Khabib Nurmagomedov, and now he's trying to catch up to Anderson Silva. But he has another 4 fights to get to Anderson Silva. That's a bad boy. But Usman, and a lot of guys hated that he won, even though he's undefeated, the champion. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, when you think about the MMA and what it represents, it's the selfishness of that sport that Dana White is still having this go on in the eye of the pandemic. I don't think that the fighters get the recognition that they deserve because they're isolated and they don't get a chance to perform in front of crowds, which is all of what athletics is about, performing in front of crowds. I thought that, if the fight got past the first round, he would win. I thought Masvidal's only chance was to win in the first round knockout. Yeah,
that was his only chance, but it didn't happen. But it's all fair, love, and war. Big C. You can follow Big C Sports 24 hours a day, 7 days a week on the #1 podcast network in the universe, and we won't poke your eyes out. You don't have to get your eyes poking to follow Big C Sports. I do want to say happy birthday again to my beautiful mother, the #1 mom in the universe, Big C. Back in the day, there's a man by the name of Drew Boudini Brown. He was known as Muhammad Ali's right-hand man, and he would always tell Ali, with all you got to use, how can you lose? Rumble, young man, rumble. Big C, what are you looking forward to in the sports universe?
Well, Charlton, the sports universe is like the life university. In this past week, I've set up and I've watched the musical Hamilton on the Disney Channel 8 times in the past week. As we're looking at the movement of Black Lives Matter in America, you can learn a lot from watching this musical, Charlton, that was, dominated the Emmys in 2016.
Yeah.
With the Tony Awards when it came out. It mimics what the Black Lives Movement is. It was a movement of America to get solidarity from the English colonies, Charlton. And the things that the people in this country now had to go through in its early, introduction into society of becoming. And those efforts merit what go on today. And I think for all of America to have an understanding what Negroes go through in this country, watch the musical Hamilton on the Disney Channel, on cable, Charlton, and you'll really understand that this is no different from what happened in the country over 220 years ago, looking for your independence and acceptance as a culture. And also, once again, want to thank the frontline healthcare workers, the doctors and first responders. I know everything that you do every day is you do it selflessly because you care about the life and the welfare of the people of the United States.
Amen. Very well said. You can follow every Monday through Friday at 5 and 6 p.m. worldwide when you follow Big C Sports on the Big C Sports Network, on the #1 network in the United States of America. And Big C Sports has been voted the #1 sports show in the universe, according to Big C and them good old boys down south. As we always tell you, there's never, ever an excuse for racism or domestic violence. If you know any man, woman, or child going through that garbage, please pick up the phone and call 911, because no man, woman, or child should ever have to go through that garbage on their own. And as we always tell you on every Big C Sports show, we thank you, we appreciate you, and we hope that you have a super fantastic day.